Celebrity scoops, lifeblood of the tabloids. Drugs, surgery and sex. Private lives dished and served for the millions. The engine driving the phone hacking scandal. Day after day, News International's reputation has been dragged through the mud with fresh evidence about phone hacking. But phone hacking and other dubious activities have not been the sole preserve of the Murdoch Group. Tonight, we throw the net far wider with evidence that another major newspaper group has been involved. Our primary source is someone who worked at the Sunday Mirror for several years. We're told our informant witnessed routine phone hacking in the newsroom and remembers an operation against one very high-profile target, Liz Hurley.
One afternoon in the newsroom, I saw Liz Hurley's phone being hacked, and a reporter listened to her mobile phone messages and take note of what was said. It was a Thursday, and I was told there wasn't much on there. Just something about lunch from another woman, so they would keep trying before the weekend to see what they could find.
We've spoken to two other sources who help corroborate our story. They both say that private detectives were used and phones were hacked. Our primary source, who used to work at the Sunday Mirror, says these techniques were routine.
A few people on the news desk and designated reporters would be doing it pretty much every day. One reporter who was very good at it was called the Master of Dark Arts. At one point in 2004, it seemed like it was the only way people were getting scoops. If they didn't just randomly hack people in the news, they would use it to stand up stories that people had denied.
The former employee told us that the technique was used against numerous celebrities as part of a drive to beat the news of the world at its own game.
Some of us were given a note of the standard PIN codes, and most of the hacking would involve two people. Two would call simultaneously from an office landline to make sure it was engaged, so it would go straight onto an answer machine, and then you could access the messages. If hacking didn't work, they also used a private investigating company.
We're told they also employed someone to obtain confidential records by tricking the targets over the phone.
I was told that he had successfully managed to get health records too. He was such a god of a voiceover artist that he could pretend to be famous people, or failing that, he'd pretend to be their lawyer or someone related to them. I was told that he had got Leslie Ash's medical records from the dark arts.
In truth, journalists have sailed very close to the wind for decades. We spoke to one former Mirrorman who is startlingly frank.
The classic things that we used to get up to in the 80s were paying policemen, following people, bugging people's houses. I personally bugged a prison officer's house who was incidentally breaking the law, and we were able to prove it through that operation. There's no doubt in my mind that if I was still a journalist, I would have had no choice but to use the technology available, and that means phone hacking. It doesn't mean that I would have happily sat back and hacked into the phone of a murder victim, but I certainly would have seen politicians and to a certain degree showbiz people as fair game.
So if journalists were hacking phones, did the management know? Celebrity interviewer Piers Morgan, who now works for CNN in America, was editor at the time our source was working at the Sunday Mirror. Under the cloak of parliamentary privilege earlier this week, one MP alleged that Mr Morgan had personally hacked phones, something he angrily denied on CNN.
Well, I'm amused by her cowardice in refusing to repeat that allegation now she's not in Parliament and covered by privilege. As she may be already aware, she came out with an absolute blatant lie during those proceedings. At no stage in my book, or indeed outside of my book, have I ever boasted of using phone hacking for any stories. For the record, in my time at the Mirror and the News of the World, I have never hacked a phone, told anybody to hack a phone, or published any story based on the hacking of a phone.
We asked the publisher of the Sunday Mirror to comment about our source's evidence tonight. A spokesman said, Trinity Mirror's position is clear. Our journalists work within the criminal law and the Press Complaints Commission Code of Conduct. There is no doubt that the use of dubious techniques was not confined to the Murdoch Group alone. Our evidence represents the first chink in the armour of other newspaper groups and publishers who will be viewing the forthcoming hacking inquiries with some trepidation.